Welcome back to a very spooky Scrollies. It is I, Squat Cobbler, and I'm joined by my co-host.
Wait, I thought you were Spook Cobbler.
Well, no, I've always been Squat Cobbler. I've never once been Spook Cobbler.
But the version of you that I had in a nightmare last night kept saying, "It's me, Spook Cobbler, and tomorrow I'll deny ever having told you this." And then you told me the exact moment of my death.
Yeah, if you remember, I also told you that tomorrow when we record, I was no, that definitely wasn't me.
Oh, right.
And the moment of your death is not coming until after you beat Wind Waker, as we've established. So you got time. You got time.
Are you saying that if I never beat Wind Waker, I'll live forever?
I didn't say that.
What's up? It's Team Ratnado. Hey, everybody. I'm Team Ratnado. I actually stream sometimes.
And I am Spook Cobbler. I mean, Squat Cobbler. Only Squat Cobbler.
Yeah, right.
I said Squat Cobbler several times there, nothing else, because I just want to make you well aware of who I am, because I don't stream right now, but it's good to be back, everyone. Hello, how's it going? It's drawing near. The month of October is winding down. Halloween is a week away. A little less than that, actually. For those of you that have been listening, you know something is coming on Halloween night. So keep your eyes on the Scrollies Discord channel and keep your feeds refreshing. Something very special is awaiting you on the spookiest night of the year. But Ratnado, we'll get to that next week. For now, we're going to be talking about a topic that's only scary to the child within you, to the innocent self. You once looked upon works of art, games that you thought, this is nothing but good vibes and chill times, but then not as such. We'll get into that. Ratnado, before we do, what have you been playing?
Ooh, that's a really fun question. Actually, this week it's pretty crazy. I played something non-Final Fantasy.
No way.
I mean, I did also play Final Fantasy, so I can't go that far in that direction.
Of course.
But yeah, I started playing, it's called A Plague Tale Requiem.
The moment has arrived. The continuation. No, in fact, the upgrade from Ratnado into Rats to be determined.
To be determined. We'll see. Maybe Rat Tsunami at the moment. No other spoilers. I don't know if that might be a spoiler for how far I've got. Well,
last time I tried to swim in a sea of rodents, I came out with a lot of bites and even more hickeys, so...
Well, it's funny, too, because I did play Plague Tale Innocence, which is the first game. I played that leading up to it, and it was funny because I played it on stream, and I still remember the first time the actual Ratnado happened. I really milked it and played it up. Like, what would you call that? A rodent whirlpool? A mouse cyclone? No, Ratnado!
Yeah, yes, tell me, Scorpion MDSA, who is the only one watching right now, what would you call this swirling vortex of little critters? And thus, the Team Ratnado name was born, replacing...
No!
It's totally blacked out. There's no way I'm gonna ever know, guys. I've gone this long. It's almost 2 whole cute members since I first encountered Rat in his channel, and no one has ever let it slip, the original name. I've lost hope at this point.
To be honest, I think I forgot what it was, too.
Only Scorpion knows. Only the Ram Goat retains that information.
I believe he wrote it down, buried it in sand, so it's in a box somewhere.
Well, we just gotta find sand in Egypt and then dig it up. That should be pretty easy.
Yeah, well, we won't have any problem with that. It's a pretty good game. I love the story. Plague Tale Requiem. Unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff that kind of holds it back. Stuff that I would have hoped they would have fixed in between the first and second game. But the story is really good, and I'm gonna finish it. It's gonna be pretty awesome, Squat Cobbler. But what about you, Squat Cobbler? What have you been playing?
This is a great question. Not too much right now. However, I did have a personal recommendation from one Prokion Lotor. I mean, any game being recommended by Proc is instant 10 out of 10, objectively.
Yeah.
Because that's his standard of quality. It's the original Thief from 1998. We were talking, he was telling me yet again how much he didn't like Metroid Fusion, and another revelation of why that is came up to him, and I'm like, okay, yeah, Good to hear, Brock.
Do you and Proc just hang out and he just tells you why Metroid Fusion is so bad?
You know, I'd like to say no, we talk about other things, but I feel like all those other things end up inevitably sprouting from or circling back to why Metroid Fusion is so horrible, so maybe not.
I love the idea of just like every few days you get a message, and another thing about Metroid Fusion, Squat.
I did say it would be a good one to follow up Super with, so I really brought this on myself, and I will happily listen to these complaints for the indefinite future, considering he did play the entire series.
Yeah.
Afterwards, I was thinking of maybe replaying it. That being Metroid Fusion, one of these days. So it's been a while. I only played it once, and that was in 2016, 2017, something like that. So it's been a bit.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm not really in a sci-fi mood right now. I am in a gothic atmosphere horror-ish game mood. So maybe one of the Castlevanias. But I was like, I'm not even sure if like Metroidvania is really the route I want to go. There's the 3D ones, the action games like Lords of Shadow. There's the classic Castlevanias that are more platform side-scrollies. But, there's plenty of other games in that setting, in that time period. And I was really just looking for an atmospheric game in the Gothic sense. And Proc, he recommended Thief. It's a first-person stealth game on the PC. The control scheme is very 90s in the sense that there is no standard.
Yeah.
You kind of have to make it work for what you have or bind all the controls yourself, which is something I spent quite a bit of time doing and probably will still be doing for a little while until I get the hang of it. But it's good. I got through the first level, which is it's like a manor inside of a Victorian town.
Yeah. I
know that the game's story is very highly praised above like all else, and the gameplay, being old, it's got some old school jank, but pretty involved for the time, I'd say. Like, there's like leaning, like you can lean around corners, kind of like, it's first person, so it's kind of like Metal Gear Solid in that sense. But Metal Gear Solid 2, where they introduced the peek round and those extra mechanics, were all present in Thief. So, yeah, haven't gotten too far into it. Can't really say too much about it just yet, but it's got the makings for something special if I can become accustomed to the wonky old controls.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've played that. I love the Thief series, as you know. I love rogues. I love thieves. Anyone who can pick a lock or talk themselves out of something or get themselves into something. So like that seriously was a series. Again, now you look at it, a lot of those mechanics and ideas are like, oh, that's, of course you do that. But back then, that was groundbreaking. It was new. And I remember, I don't think I've played a Thief game since, seriously, like 10 years now since college, whenever Thief 3 came out.
Did you play the reboot on PS4?
That's probably what it was. Maybe. But no, it was a new game like on PS3 back like whenever, Thief 3. And it was okay. It wasn't quite what I was looking for at the time. But the Thief games are great. Right. I love them.
Yep. Well, hey, hoping I can get further along in it, and I can understand why that is the case as well.
Or you have something to go and proc and complain about, which is just as fun, let's be real.
They're just walking! That'll be the day. That'll be the day when I can bring my rage into Proc's chat, but... Until that day, Ratnado, we have other emotions to bring about, such as fright and shock, especially that derived from childhood trauma brought about by games that we played that we weren't expecting these things to come from. Kids games or non-horror games that have scary moments and scary stuff in them.
Terrifying. For Squat Cobbler, every game that isn't a horror game is a kid's game.
This is, you know what? This is true. This is true.
They have to learn sometime.
I have very niche interests. It's either horror or it's cutesy variations on other popular games. So those are the two options. I'm glad I've added at least a second one to those at this point.
If Nintendo creates their own version of Silent Hill 2, maybe we'll get you to experience it and see it.
I think that's pretty likely. I think that's really, something that's in the cards for them. Before we do that, everyone, we actually have to. I'm getting tapped by my producer here. They're saying that. Oh, sorry, we have to cut the commercial break.
Ads? We're getting paid?
Yeah, we have actual sponsors. They've reached out to us and they said, hey, Scrollies, you're a big hit across the world, and we want to sponsor your podcast. So they're here now. and you're going to be hearing those ads.
We do have a very, very select audience and demographic to go to. So
these are highly targeted. If you're hearing these, it's meant for you.
It's the season of spooking, and nowhere is safe. There are garfs all over.
Lasagna.
If you or a loved one sees a garf, please call 888-363-GOT-GARF before it's too late.
It's nap. It's nap.
We will send our best experts over to destroy the garfs once and for all for a small fee. Don't wait until it's too late. Call now. A small fee may not actually be small. Sometimes the garf manage to escape into the walls, and our experts cannot reach them. When this happens, you'll still be charged for our time. People who are pregnant or may become pregnant should not call this number for unclear reasons. Call 888-363-GOT-GARF. Or else.
You know it's Monday when you wake up and it's Tuesday. Good times are ahead or behind. Because they sure aren't here.
And welcome back. Welcome back, man. Let me tell you, I'm placing my order right now. Just fantastic.
I would, if I could, I would listen to them again. I mean, I'm not going to force it on the listeners, but maybe hit back, hit back a couple ways, go back about a minute or two, and give them another listen.
Yeah, you got that rewind 10-second, rewind 15-second button, depending on your listening app. So hit that a couple times if you want to relive the ad zone. But for those of you that don't, we're going to continue on. Ratnado, tell me, did you yourself have any experiences playing just a regular role game, a pretty standard team game that suddenly hits you with something horrifying, something disgusting, something shocking?
Yes, a lot of them. I was going to say that there were a lot of things when I was younger. When I grew up, it was a lot of side scrollies, a lot of 2D pixel art, and that's really hard to kind of scare people with. I think there's a lot of stuff that really makes it difficult to, to really terrify. Great games, great graphics, but are there things that scare you? And one of the first ones for me, a little game you might know as Link to the Past. Okay?
Ah.
Sure, there's scary things in there. Yeah, right? And so,
You got skeletons that float around without their heads and jump. That's pretty scary.
But that's expected, I think at that point, even in my life when I would have been like 5 or 6, and I was allowed to play video games by myself, I was like, whatever. Skeletons.
That's just silly.
It looks silly, right? The mood in Link to the Past is always pretty similar. And so you don't think of it as a scary game. But I must have been alone or left in the basement to play video games by myself. And I had a terrible fear of my basement as a kid. You can ask Teo Doff. I was terrified of the basement. I was terrified of being down there alone. And, it probably was a while until I was actually, over that fear.
Now, Ratnado, is this the basement near him right now?
This is not... It's below me. It's right below me.
He wouldn't dare go down that low to record Scrollies. That's for Squirrelies only.
That's only for...
Now you know. Now you know the secret Squirrelies recording location.
I'll be honest, the basement still kind of scares me sometimes, But I have memories of being left down there, playing games, and people would leave, and I'd realize I'm all alone. But what got me, okay? There's a place where you can go and Link to the Past to upgrade some weapons. Everyone knows about the waterfall, but there's also, right, the Mad Batter.
Yes, I know this well because I within the last year have replayed Link to the Past, so I know exactly what you're talking about. That is a pretty scary moment, isn't it?
It really is, and especially as a kid, not having the context of it and getting used to this tone of, it's a little bit silly sometimes when it's scary. It ramps you up into it, but at the end of the day, you're like, I understand what's going on. I understand what the game is.
Tell the people that haven't played this, what exactly happens in the hole with the Mad Batter?
So after you're able to get all of your items, you're able to locate a specific place, drop through a hole in the ground, and it plays that creepy music for caves, underground, and such from Link to the Past. And suddenly you step into this room and there's this weird little altar looking thing and a cup of red substance held up by 2 hands.
It's probably Kool-Aid.
Knowing Nintendo.
Yeah.
They'd be like, it's magic. It's healing potion.
Oh yeah, there's red potion in Zelda, so yeah, that's a good thing. That heals all your hearts.
The setup was so weird though, and I think it was late enough in the game that I was just like, what is this? Like, had it been something at the start of the game, my young kid brain would have been like, oh, that's just part of Zelda, whatever. But it had this feeling of like breaking through into something that you weren't supposed to be in.
And we're not talking about the Chris Houlihan room, which you actually aren't supposed to get in.
Yeah. And so you step up, and there's this bat dude that appears out of nowhere, and he like basically curses you. And in that moment, I do remember being like terrified, like, what have I done? Where am I? Why is there like this bat demon flying around? And why is he attacking me? What did I do? I did something wrong.
There's flashing lights, there's lightning, and he's just yelling at you, and he says he's gonna take away half of your life.
Yeah.
And then you see a little fraction next to your health bar. So I just took his word for it. I thought he meant it. I thought, wow, man, I got half my life now for the rest of the game.
Oh, man, I just cursed myself. But that didn't turn out to be what he actually did, right?
Yes. It wasn't revealed to me until Sevilla at the very end said, no, he actually doubled your life. And I said, oh, well, that's not very clear. Especially by how much I'm still dying.
Oh, well, that's a different issue.
that has nothing to do with fear and trauma. That's all skill or lack thereof.
No, but that got me. And I remember just because it was just like this weird tonal change. Like the music was creepy, but it wasn't something I hadn't heard. But it was just like, I've seen nothing to prepare me for this. And I'm a kid, and I'm probably alone in the house somewhere. And I don't know. I imagine a lot of those are just weird, like, hey, where did this come out of?
All right, Nato, that is a scary moment. I remember when I re-encountered that just earlier this year and felt very much similar to you. That, man, this just kind of came out of nowhere. There's nothing really like that in the rest of the game either. It's just kind of a one-time optional event that just kind of happens, and you're like, well, that just happened. Ratnado, let me tell you, I surely at one point or another came across a scary-looking sprite, but as a young one myself, I cannot claim that I ever had any lasting, frightening image stick with me. But what if I told you something even scarier? To this day, I can still visualize clear as the first time I laid my eyes on it.
Oh, no.
And let me tell you what. It was in low poly 3D.
Is it possible?
I think it has to be, because I remember it. And we know memories never lie to you.
Well, there's one thing I know to easily terrify you, and I don't know if this is the same thing.
Right, Nato, it's in the contract. We're not going to mention that on Scrollies. We're not going to mention wandering into just a generic-looking temple. The door opens for each and every character, and you walk alone through the corridors as water drips around you. Ambient music echoes through the halls, and you reach the end. You grab the banana, and everything's all right. And then,
oh my gosh!
And then suddenly it's not.
Oh my goodness!
Suddenly you're running.
He's actually crying.
For your life.
He's actually crying.
Yeah, we're not talking about that. We never would. I'm talking about Mario 64. The haunted house level?
Yeah, that's a good one.
The boos were not scary. I mean, they're like, ooh, spooky, but nothing that like, oh, you just gotta run behind them and then punch them as they're visible. No, I'm talking about, I don't even know if it counts as an enemy, because you can't kill it. It only kills you. I think it's part of the environment, and yet it's a character, undoubtedly. The scary piano from Mario 64 with the teeth that goes chomp, 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 chomp.
Oh my gosh.
As you approach it. That is... What were they thinking putting that in their first 3D game? Man.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't really remember that being, like, when I was a kid seeing it. It wasn't until later, and it still scares me. Like, I think I replayed it, like, on the Switch remaster, whatever that came out, and I like got to that point, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrifying. I'm a 30-year-old man, and this is terrifying. And
if I remember right, it doesn't do anything until you get close to it, but there's like a red coin or something near it that you like have to collect if you want to get that star. So the game is encouraging you to approach this thing that looks very unassuming and generic and fine, and then suddenly it grows teeth and starts chomping, trying to eat you.
Oh my goodness!
Horrifying.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Not the only one on the N64 that comes to mind as being unnecessarily disturbing.
Yes.
In design and in execution. But that's the one that I played as a kid. There's another one, Ratnado, that much like you played as an adult for the first time, and man. But we'll get to that in a second. Did you have another one that you wanted to share?
I think I reached, like, right before I became a tween, so we're talking like 9 to 12. I think there was a time right between there when 3D graphics started to come out. Things were becoming very real. And, like, obviously I've talked about how Resident Evil traumatized me for zombies. But that's kind of intentional. That's the point, right? The funny thing is, though...
Yeah, that's not a kid's game, right? I don't know if you're aware.
Well...
The ESRB was out at that time, and I don't think it was rated E for everyone.
I don't think I knew what an ESRB was. Teodafa probably should have known, though.
Well, hey, not all of us were so fortunate that our parents would just buy any old game without looking at a certain letter in the bottom corner.
Well, he was old enough. That was the difference, is he was old enough. And that was probably fine for him, and he probably enjoyed it. But I sat on the couch just absolutely traumatized from that. But what I'm talking about is that whole kind of generation, to me, has this air of, like, creepiness. And that goes through to a lot of other millennials. I don't know if that's because it's genuinely actually creepy, or we were all just at a time where that would affect us. I think a lot of it is that, like, early 3D stuff had this, like, weird feeling of, like, they hadn't quite figured out how to make it as palatable or as natural. So everything about it just felt so off. So even now when I hear other PlayStation games intro, it always makes my mind go back to, like, horror. There's something about every PlayStation, like the little, like, janky, like, stuttering graphics and the music, and even, like, the PlayStation 1 startup music that is just, like, inherently terrifying. And and just kind of that whole era of 3D, I remember specifically something that probably wasn't supposed to be scary. I really remember getting over a childhood fear by playing GoldenEye 007.
Really? Huh. Okay. Not the game that people typically go to for therapeutic milestones, but okay. Well, let's hear about it.
Yeah. Let me explain though. So you have this whole new world where now there's all this stuff going on, and unlike other games where you can see all the enemies in a side scrolly, or it's a numbers game where you can see your enemy across and their stats and all this stuff is there. In this 3D space, there's an entire dimension that you don't see.
Behind you. Yeah.
Behind you. Yep. And I remember that actually freaking me out. Combine that with the whole PlayStation thing and, like, how third person perspective and first person perspective, and seeing, like, my brother play, like, Doom and Wolfenstein and all the connotations there, it just all kind of mushed together. And I remember that GoldenEye for me was a scary thing.
Really? Okay. Wow. That's. I don't know if that's a unique take or not. I've never heard anyone ever describe it that way before.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think where other people, like, maybe your age and stuff, that was just natural. Like third person or first person. That's just how it is, and that's fine. But as somebody who was just so used to seeing every problem because they had to, because of the way the hardware worked, they weren't able to hide things like that, or there wasn't that element of unknown. And I think that all of it eventually came to be, like, something that was really good and really positive. Like, I felt like I conquered something when I played GoldenEye.
All right. Well, hey, that's now you always know to check the corners when you pass by. Make sure no one's laying in wait behind you, ready to jump out, shoot you in your blind zones. Well, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I can't ever say that I ever really consciously thought about it, but yeah, I get that. Like, you see everything on screen when it's a 2D game. Or an isometric game, like, you might have, like, some guard jump out of the bushes and Link to the Past, but it's not gonna, like, totally come out of nowhere. You have to at least, like, be in the grass to have it happen. But in a 3D game, they could just sneak up right behind you, and you wouldn't even know until they're on top of you.
Oh man, yeah. I think it really played on my fears in life too. Of, like, somebody could just sneak up on me.
Well, they have those glasses with the mirrors on the side. That look kind of dumb when you wear them, but you never have anyone sneak up on you that way.
That's true. I guess if you really want to do that, you just become a vampire and then do that, because then you can always see behind you.
Well, then you wouldn't see your own reflection in the glasses, which
exactly
would be very useful.
Yeah, you could just always see.
Yeah. Well, now I'm wondering why vampires don't just have like mirror glasses.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
They'd only see behind them. They wouldn't have to worry about their face. That's.
But there really is something about the PlayStation era that just feels weird and creepy and off.
I think it's definitely not Uncanny Valley, because there's nothing uncanny about it. It looks fake as hell, but...
Well, now, to you...
Oh, but I was going to say, at the time, it still did. However, your mind was filling in all the blanks. So
exactly.
I think you were maybe adding a lot more details, in your mind's eye than what was actually there. So the scary things were even more terrifying and scary than they ever could have possibly been realized.
It really is crazy that there's no way for me to communicate to you how it really was. Like, graphics will never get better than this. That idea of like, because now you look at it and you say like, oh, it's so clearly not true. But at the time, it was like, we were like mind blown with how good it looked. And I don't think there's any way to communicate that to you, because, kids now, they're just like, that's so silly. It looks so fake. And it's like, you don't get it. You'll never get it. I have no way to explain it to you.
As someone who only ever had SD consoles until the 2010s, I could maybe try to understand, but I don't think I can relate quite as you are describing. Certainly, I mean, going from 2D to 3D, that's the biggest jump that's ever happened in video games and ever will happen. I mean, there's not really another way beyond that. VR is, its own thing. That's still in a 3D world. So, definitely. But like I said before, I've recounted a childhood moment of recognizing, it's scary, and remembering that to this day. However, there is a game that I have often said before, it takes me back to being a kid, despite the fact that I played it as an adult for the first time. Ocarina of Time. It's a fairly tame game. Nothing too scary until you get the Shadow Temple. But before the Shadow Temple, which is the spooky themed dungeon, you go under the well in Kakariko Village, and you encounter a certain enemy in that space that is unnecessarily, absolutely terrifyingly designed.
Yeah.
Dead hands.
This is the fifth time I've heard you be like, this is scary.
And this is something that I played for the first time in like 2015. I was like, what were they thinking putting this in a game that kids would play? Like, this is so Dead Hand. I mean, he's like, on the surface, it's like a pretty basic design.
Yeah.
But it's like the implications. So you walk into this room with just a bunch of like withered like gray hands sticking out of the ground. You're like, oh, okay, this is a little bizarre. I guess they're gonna like grab me when I walk close, and sure enough, they do. But then from the middle of the room just sprouts a pile of bones exploding. And you're like, what is this? And then just a mound of flesh and blood with nothing but like huge teeth on its head pops out, looks at the ceiling, shimmies toward you, and then moves its giant neck down to face you with its dead eyes, black as night, and just starts biting you as its hands coming up from the ground just hold on to you so you can't run away. I could not believe they put that in the game.
Absolutely nightmare fuel. Terrifying. Yeah. I don't think I had the same response as you. I don't think it affected me that viscerally of a thing where I was like, oh, that scared me and I hated it. It was just like, I remember seeing it and just being like, ooh, this is weird. I don't like this.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Maybe it's just the fact that it's so distinctly different from anything else in the game. Even the scary, like, typical, like, monster, Thalphos, just skeleton soldiers.
Yeah.
That's I guess kind of scary in the same sense that a skeleton is scary in a Halloween decoration.
Sure,
but
yeah.
Zombies, you don't really have. You do have werewolves,
yeah.
kind of in Ocarina, but they're not really scarily designed. They're just kind of like monsters. Dead Hand is just so out there different, and I mean Bongo as well. But he's I would say, despite being like unsettling in the fact that he has severed hands and no head. Dead Hands just seems like something from a totally different game thrown into Ocarina of Time at random. in the spot under the well.
Yeah, no, I 100%. And I mean, it is such a big, and maybe that's what I'm seeing, is a lot of stuff is just like a big turn away from what you're expecting, which is like the rest of the game, there's some weird stuff, like the forest temple is kind of weird and creepy and strange. But then you get to there and it's just like this completely, and like just to start off and be like, you know, Hyrule's sins of the past. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's like the temple, you know, when you get to the Shadow Temple, and also, but then like, you know, there's all the theories about how the well is connected, and you know, all of this feels just like this weird like necromancy and weird magic stuff, and it's just weird. It's so weird.
It is weird. It is bizarre, and the most bizarre thing of all is that Kat, back on her guest appearance on Scrollies, wished for more of this content in Tears of the Kingdom. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. If Dead Hands shows up again in a modern Zelda title with HD high resolution graphics, I shudder to think what the effects would be. I don't actually think it'd be that scary now, because there's something I think about the simplicity of it, like you were saying with the PlayStation models, that I think just adds to it. It is just so stilted and unnatural.
It's bizarre.
I think that plays a part. That plays a part.
Because, and for me too, I think Ocarina of Time, well, when I think of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, to me, Majora's Mask is the one that's like creepier. There's just something about it that's unsettling. Ocarina of Time's kind of straightforward. But what I always had fear of in Ocarina with the Wall Masters.
Yeah.
And
well, I kind of place on the fear of not being able to see them, right? Because they come from above.
Yeah. Hey, maybe we found the source of our fears.
I think GoldenEye came out before Ocarina of Time, but yeah, sure. Maybe that's what it was. You got over the fear, and then the fear reinstated itself in Zelda.
Your fears are never completely gone. You just learn to manage them better.
That's true.
I have anxiety because I fear things that may get me that I can't see, and you hate abominations that shouldn't exist.
And disembodied voices that yell at you before a bullseye JPEG shows up over your character. That's a daily struggle. You know, we don't have to talk about that here, but you know, every day I worry about a bullseye just showing up out of random and hovering over me.
I was gonna say, if that happened, the power went off, a bullseye showed up on your head, and you heard that, you'd be terrified. I would just
accept the end had come and it was time. I wouldn't try and fight it. I wouldn't try and run. I just hope it would be over quickly.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of good that we've overcome and figured out the root of our fears, Squat Cobbler.
We covered a good swath of childhood moments, other games of that era that we later realized was horrifying and somehow avoided the trauma on. Was there anything else you wanted to share before we call it for this episode?
I think one thing that I thought of that I didn't really get to delve a lot into, I think that one of the creepiest things about video games, and this can be any game, it's not just scary games, is usually when I find out, and this was sort of in like the creepypasta like era of like video game stuff, is like actually finding hidden areas. Like, I think it was in Halo Combat Evolved, there's like some area, or it might be Halo 2, where it's a secret area and you get there's like these monkey things. I don't know if you know about this.
Monkey. No, I've never played a Halo. This is sounding enticing. I might have to give it a shot now.
No, they're like cavemen.
Just for monkey.
But like, specifically, no, like it's really kind of terrifying. Weird, right?
What is that?
That's cavemen. I guess that's what they call them. And like, you get to the spot and you're not supposed to get there. It's supposed to be like kind of difficult to get there or something. And like, they're just there. Like, they're always there and you don't notice it, right?
They're just chilling. It looks like that's a whole family. Or maybe one of them's giant. I can't really tell. This perspective's a little weird.
Yeah. It's very strange.
Holding a teddy bear?
And like, clearly you're not supposed to get there. You know, like, I think they have to cheat or something to get there. And it's just like this weird thing. Kind of like similarly to, I believe it's in Super Mario Galaxy, where there's one level and you're like in a little valley, and if you look up, you know what I'm talking about?
The eyes, yeah. They hid like I think they call them the Watchers, and they're just like these yellow eyes that are like up on the borders. of the world that you're in, and you can't get to them. They're like way out of reach, but they're just like there.
Yeah, and don't they move like as you progress? They'll disappear sometimes or something like that.
I'm not entirely sure if they were actual like characters in the game or models. I think it was just like part of the
right
surrounding texture. So maybe they like turn that on and off. But yeah, I
think they do, and that's creepy to me. That's so weird.
Yeah. It's definitely an odd addition to a game that's pretty much strictly just platforming and no real story beyond that. Mario Galaxy 2, but definitely one of the more memorable moments from that game is looking up around the level and seeing, hi up there. Yeah, what's up? You're watching
me.
Yeah.
It is weird. I always think those things are creepy. Those are things that get me a lot. I feel like it doesn't happen as much as it used to, but that was definitely a thing back in the day where it's just like, hide something, we're going to put the developer's room in, or here's a painting, or, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of games like that where it's like otherwise normal and they slip in like a painting that is scary or something like that.
Oh, undoubtedly. I mean, have you cycled through all the Minecraft paintings they offer? You know the one I'm talking about, McButcher. All right. Well, with that, I think we've covered a wide swath of events, of moments that have stuck with us throughout our lives, probably throughout the rest of our lives as well. And I'm sure you, likewise, listener, have some of those moments that you know of as well. So feel free to share that with us in a 5-star review, or email us at scrolliespodcast@gmail.com and tell us a little bit about something you had go down in a game that wasn't strictly a horror game, but had a horrifying conclusion. I've been Squat Cobbler of the Scrollies Podcast, and I am joined by my co-host,
Team Ratnado. It's a new one.
Ooh, a new one. I like it. And like we said, we have something special planned. Halloween night, midnight Mountain Time, is when it'll be going live for you all to listen to, and we really hope you can make it. We'll have some announcements. We'll have some good times had, and we hope you are there to take part. Until then, stay spooky.
Ooh, they better, or else Chunky Cat will find you.
Or else. All right, everyone. See you later.
Bye.
What exactly happens in the hole with the mad batter?
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna play it. Hold on really quick. To make sure that I'm not gonna create another thing where I lie.
Another false memory.
Because I thought of this while we were going, and I was just like, hold on, I know this is a thing. And I do remember this actually scaring me, but I'm like, am I putting this with something else now?
We strive for only truth and accuracy here on Scrollies, so
this is all gonna get cut out.